What's up, you Relentless Warriors? Welcome back to Relentless Fit 365. This is post-workout of legs and shoulders part 1 this week, and I'm going to be going through all these moves. I'm going to do them without dumbbells, but you kind of get the idea. This could be done with body weight or with dumbbells, especially with the shoulder stuff. You know, dumbbells are certainly necessary, but let me first address this. I know I always do. Don't compromise your form for the weight. So light weight is always more effective if it is in fact messing up your form to go heavier. So form is certainly the most important. So I want to target the form. If you need me to show you with dumbbells afterwards, that's fine. I will show you with a dumbbell motion. But for the most part, focus on the form. The first one was the split press, and we pressed with the right. The split stance was the right in front and the left in back. So let me adjust this very briefly here. So we're right here. Right leg was in front, left is in back. The dumbbell was here, and then we had the left right here. One quick thing to address on this left, a lot of times when you have the dumbbell, you're likely to drop it forward. Always focus on rolling that shoulder back. You want that spine to be nice and straight and good posture. So in this position, right is in front, left is in back, little split stance, dropping the back leg down. It's not forward like this. If you're feeling more pressure here, you're doing it wrong. You want to drop back here, drop down, and then pressing straight up. So you should have a nice line down here. So make sure, really focus on that back leg down here like this. Back leg down, driving up. Back leg down, and then driving up. The same would be true on the other side. Again, left is in front, right is in back. Right here, shoulder back, chest out, chin up, dropping down, and then back up. Now I'm going to show you this when we do the alternating lunges, but the same rules apply here. Watch the knee. Common mistake here is this diving down. See where that knee is going? Watch the toe, watch the knee. Common mistake is this knee is coming inward. Now a lot of times that happens because you have underworked hamstrings and glutes. So what you want to do is focusing on making sure that you're pushing this part and engaging the muscle right here. So I always say stay on your heel. I always say that because you're forced to work your hamstring and your glutes to stay on that heel. If you end up going on your toe, do that just for a second. Go on your heel and then go on your toe. Watch how quickly your knee dives in. So you want to make sure you're coming straight down, keeping a nice range right here, not like this. Okay, it's just a quick technique on that one. Hulk squats. Dumbbells are right here. Yes, Michael.
There's a question about the split stance squats. Should you do a split weight, like the one that you're just holding is heavier and the one that you're pressing is lighter?
That's a good question. You don't necessarily have to split the weight, but if that helps you, you can certainly do that. So I was using the same amount of weight. I had 15s pressing, 15s down. A lot of times on the shoulders, obviously you want to go lighter, but if you want more to engage back here, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you use the same weight that you did on the other side and you switch those weights. So, yeah. Any more questions on that form? Thank you for cutting me off on that one. That's a good one. Hulk squats, same deal. Regular squat position, my feet are just a little bit wider than shoulder width. Again, pressure on the heels. Elbows are up, dumbbells are here. On Hulk squats, you always want to go lighter. Dropping down, elbows stay high as you're dropping, going down into a squat. Look at where the elbows are at. They're not dropping down here, right here, and then coming straight up. So you're engaging your posterior delt when you're coming down. Here's a common mistake on the shoulder, is that people bring it forward. You want to keep it back like this, dropping down. And when you keep it back, that engages the posterior part of your delt. And that's what you're trying to work here. So once again, here's another motion right here, dropping down, boom, right there. Hulk smash. Make sure you get a nice while you're doing it as well. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's Hulk squats. We're going into alternating reverse lunge raises. Now on the raises, there are cases where we go reverse lunge press. I didn't even offer that as a modifier because we're doing press already. So I wanted you to really focus on the raise. If you struggled on the weights, get rid of the weight because I want you to open that core up. That's part of the exercise. So you're coming back too light. We were using light dumbbells the entire time. So you're coming back here, boom, straight back. You want to engage the core. So your abs and your lower back should be engaged. You're not torquing back like this and you're not front like that. Straight up. And again, back knee is down. This knee is not diving in. Always focus on that in the lunges. And then coming straight back like here. This back knee coming down. Straight up. And then you're coming back here. So, I'm sorry, there's a reverse lunge. So reverse, boom, bring it back, and then dropping down. Now, on that downward motion, it's a controlled form. If you're swinging the weight like this, it's coming back, you're going too heavy.
You're probably gonna hurt yourself.
You're certainly gonna hurt yourself. So be careful with that weight, make sure it's controlled. Let me show you one more time. Driving, alternating, same thing, straight up, knee, good posture, good core, good control.
Yeah, this is an exercise that's truly not about the weight.
Yeah.
I mean, go light. I mean, I was only doing 10s, and I mean, by 15 or wherever we're at, the last few, ooh.
Yeah, they kill, they add up.
Burn.
Did you feel this in your core and your lower back, your
it's
abs and back?
Full body.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain parts that you'll feel a little bit more, so that kind of take away, like, so you don't notice it until you're done. Then you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
You know, but you get your shoulders, you get your legs for sure, your core.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, again, like I said, we went light, and Rich felt it. Certainly, you should feel it. So really, form is the most important part on this one. Sumo squats. This was one that Rich brought up, and I wanted to address it. That he was struggling. The dumbbell was slipping from your hands.
It's too sweaty. My hands are getting too sweaty on the chrome.
Yeah. So if that's the case, and that just our dumbbells they look pretty, but when it gets hot and humid in here, which it is, we're very lucky though because it could be worse. He was having trouble gripping the weight. If you have trouble with that, or the weight becomes a factor, get rid of it. On the sumo squat, this is one of those cases, a slight technique where your toes are pointed outward anyway, and I always like pivoting back and forth. That reminds me of which muscles to engage. So when you're coming down, it's adductors, abductors, and I'll go back and forth. Get me in a position, because when you're like this, you go back and forth, I realize I'm top heavy. You don't want to do that. I'm trying to dance here. It's not working.
Best move yet.
Thank you. This is actually a workout, but we're not doing that today. All right, so just like that, when you're dropping down, the dumbbell was here. I like to look up because I still want to be able to wiggle my toes. Inside, outside, adductors, abductors, then we're coming up. On that upward motion, I mean it sincerely, flex your butt. Glute muscles really should activate there. This is not a rest. You're actually activating your glutes. Squeeze them. It's a lazy muscle. You have to force it to activate.
Yep.
So make sure you're doing that when you're coming up. So drop down, you want to look up. The range of motion is not going to be as deep probably as a regular squat. That's okay. Right here, focus on the butt. That was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, the chin up is really important though, because your form can turn good to crappy quickly.
Absolutely.
Especially as you get tired, you start looking down.
Yeah.
The next thing you're doing this, and you're leaning forward.
Yeah.
So I mean, I always have to remind myself when I get tired to keep my chin up, to look up, just look up to the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, he's right. The moment you start lunging forward and your shoulders start to roll forward, you need to check your form. Yes, line up.
Well, sometimes the weights that people use for the sumo squats are too big. They'll decrease the range of motion. What would you recommend holding them sideways, or can you hold them like how you would in a goblet squat?
Yes, that's actually, you actually could. So they're talking goblet squat, that just raises where the weight is at. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the head of the dumbbell, I'm bringing it towards my chest. Today we had it down here. The reason why we do that is that keeps all the weight activated by the legs. This just changes it slightly, not much.
Puts it in the back a little bit.
It will put it, yeah, it will put it a little bit in your lower back. We have been engaging lower back today. It may not seem like it, but you'll probably feel some of that tomorrow. You can also do it this way. You could grab the head of the dumbbell like this, or if you want to, you can grab it like that. You know, it's really up to you, but we went down low here, so sometimes it does change the range of motion. You're better off to get rid of this if that's the case. Good question. Okay, next one is lateral front raises. So on the lateral front raises, on the forward and back, you want it on the lighter weight is what I really want to recommend with this one, because it's that control. So always make sure you're not going back right here. It's on the side. That's a common mistake that I always see. I'm in an X stance now. I offered you could do the stagger. On that stagger, I would just recommend the next round you switch the stagger. It just changes the range of motion, not so much the exercise per se. But
do you feel like you get more core with your X stance?
It depends. If it's just a slight step, not necessarily. The core is really going to be, if you really widen that stance, then you're changing completely. And just try it. If you go like this, just a little step, you're not going to feel the difference. You step back here and then just raise up. You'll feel that core right away. We haven't done this one in a long time. That's interesting. And it's actually, yeah, we probably should go to that one. Good question, Richard. Otherwise, on the X stance right here, focus on the pause here and then control. On shoulders, I'm all about control. I hate to see swinging. When I see people in the gym doing this,
defeating the purpose.
Yeah, it really does. It defeats the purpose, but at the same time, you're messing. This rotator cuff is one of those really tricky, really tricky joints. If you're not careful, you could easily pull it. A lot of times, some of the most common injuries I get from clients are shoulder injuries. They either do too much weight or their form isn't that good, and they're trying to compensate something to get the weight up. Be careful with that. Always go lighter on that one.
A lot of little muscles in there.
Yeah.
And you tear one of those, and it's physical therapy for 6 to 8 weeks. If you're lucky.
He's right. It could be up to a couple of months. I've had clients that deal with that, and it's just frustrating. Yeah. So even if you have good form, your shoulders are very likely the muscles that end up getting the pulls and the injuries. So just be careful with that. I don't like messing with the shoulder stuff. I always go lighter.
I went really light.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that was a good move. I usually don't go above 15s. I think I stayed with 15s the whole time. There was one time I did a video, I didn't say anything, but I thought I grabbed, these weights look smaller, and in another gym, like the weight is bigger. Yeah. So I grabbed 20s and didn't realize it. And the whole time I'm like, what's wrong with my shoulders? And then I realized I had the 20s. I was really upset with myself because I do prefer going lighter when it comes to those. Yeah. So just
I mean, and plus, you got to judge your body where you are in the workout. Yeah. Because like my lower back was getting a little tired, so yeah. I didn't want to compromise my form, so that's why I dropped, But I felt it great. I mean, it was burning out by the time we got to the end. Yeah. Didn't matter.
Yeah, Rich brings up a very good point. If you heard what he said, he didn't want to compromise his form, and it's still engaging. If you're feeling your muscles activate, get rid of the numbers. To me, the amount of weight is no different than numbers on the scale. They're just numbers. It's a gauge. The only difference is the dumbbells will show you if you're progressing in strength or not, but at the same time, you're going to know that with body weight stuff, and that'll just hold you back if you're focusing on like, I'm going to do 40 pounds and just rah. And I see that in the gym. Just be careful with that. All right, we're going to go down to the ground. I want to show you mule kicks. Mule kicks, pretty self-explanatory. We do these a lot. There's a couple of ways you could do it. Now, if you notice, I actually need a dumbbell with this, Rich. Give me a light one. That's good. Right. Perfect. Now, Rich did it. I appreciate Rich doing this because it got very hot in here. We were both sweating. So he took a towel, he put it right here in the pit of his knee so it wouldn't slip off. You can also do that if like it's starting to pinch. Some people do it because it hurts the skin. That's fine. We're lucky with these dumbbells because the way it's a banana grip, so it's pretty comfortable. But you want to put it right here. Again, heel is where it's at. And then you want to kick 6 to 8 inches and then drop 6 to 8 inches down. 6 to 8 inches up, 6 to 8 inches down. If you're dealing with any problems, you can always, now we have a nice padded floor, but if you're on all fours, you can always put a padding to support this knee. So the knee that's down, put some padding under it if you have to.
Towel.
Yeah, a towel works, a yoga mat, something that just supports your knee here. Also, if this is struggling, just get rid of the dumbbell. It's fine. This is technically a body weight exercise anyway. Again, you're engaging up here. If you're lifting, squeeze, and then drop right there. You shouldn't go any lower than this. Now the full range of motion, this is a little bit different. I've done this during a tempo, but for the most part when we're doing reps and sets, you want to keep that nice and controlled and obviously constantly engaged. That's where you're truly going to feel it. I don't know if there's any problems with the mule kicks. So we're going to move on with that one. That was pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, protect your knees, and for the most part, use weight that just works. Thanks, Rich. All right, next one is the Wolverine calf raises, one of my favorites. One of Rich's favorites.
Made those calves into cows. No longer baby calves.
Turn those calves into cows, he said. That's funny. All right. I had Rich do I don't even like to call this a modifier. It's just a different way to do it. I don't like to say modifier because people think they're compromising. But if you put your hand on your knee, what'd you think about this one?
I think it. I thought I felt it more in the upper.
Yeah, when you're doing it like this. Yeah. This will activate calves a little bit more isolated. When you go lower, it's hamstrings and glutes.
It puts a little more pressure on the stabilizing muscles in the ankle too, I thought.
Yeah, when you're in the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this one. Not everyone can go low either, so this is just fine. Notice my heel is still off the ground, so you want to raise, you want to pause that raise, and then lower it, but never try to touch the heel. The key is to not rest. You want to push through it. There's also a double pump. It's an old school thing. We didn't do that today because I was just counting smooth motions, but if you're doing it on your own, those double tap ones that I'm doing now, oh my goodness. We'll do that someday.
It's a really short range of motion.
Yeah,
but if you kept your heel off, I mean, it's just, wow. By 10, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to 20.
Yeah.
And then you get lovely surprises on 20.
Like the pause, the pause
is this wonderful gift.
So we're getting low on this one. Rich loves these, obviously. Heel's off the ground. My chin is close to my knee. I didn't say it, but you can touch if that helps you on the lower, but try not to touch too much because the whole point is you're using your body weight to keep pressure here to engage your hamstring, your glutes, and your calves. So many goodies here. And again, still controlling it up, pausing, keep the heel down. Even when I'm down, the heel is off the ground. So that's the Wolverine. Any questions on that, just let me know. And of course, the alternating lunge, self-explanatory. I touched on this on the isolated one. The moving one is even that much more important because you're getting a range in there while you're moving. So shoulders back, chest out, the weight doesn't matter. What matters is you're lunging right there. You notice a mistake? At the knee. It's a common mistake. I'm going to correct it all the time. This is where a lot of injuries are occurred. A lot of times runners are like, I don't understand what's the deal. I have knee issues, I have knee pain, I have hip pain. If you lunge like this, that's why you're having those problems. If you run more than you work out and exercise and other things and you don't balance it, you're going to end up getting that. Always focus on that lunge. Good range of motion, alternating, good range of motion. You have to force that knee outward at some point. But that should be a nice straight line. Again, shoulders back naturally, chest out, chin up. Notice I didn't even address the dumbbells. They're just there as a counterweight. Focusing it does engage the shoulders because you don't want to drive forward like this. It's like that.
Not a pony hop.
Yeah, it's not a pony hop. That's different. Thank you. So right there, your lower back should feel it as well. But again, watch the knee. Alternating like this. There are ways to correct those knee issues. One of these days I'll do like a correction video to show you. But in the meantime, just focus on constantly that knee of where it's going. Yeah, line up.
Do that facing the window.
Shoulders back, chest out, chin up. Punch in the face by Rich. Watch that back knee dropping down, back up. Notice I always have a slight angle looking up. It's just a little technique. Long time ago I was taught that forces the body where it should be. My chest is always up. I see a lot of people doing this. That's a different, you can lunge like this so long as you're not driving forward like that. That's what I have a problem with.
Never want your knee over your toes.
Yeah, one of these things, some people will speak against that rule. I do not. I believe in that rule religiously because I've seen a lot of injuries.
As a physical therapist.
Yeah. So, does that help? Awesome.
Well, when I hurt my knee, part of the reason is that, the supporting muscles, the glutes, the calves, were underworked.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important not to skip things you may not like body weight, like mule kicks, like those Wolverine calf races, because the leg works all together. So if you're not strengthening these muscles, the support muscles, you put all that weight and all that the requirement on your quads and your hamstrings,
right?
And they tire out, and then you start having knee imbalance.
Yeah, and you had to deal with that knee pain.
Yeah.
Not a fun thing to do.
I was told I have a lazy, can I say ass?
Yeah.
Beep. Lazy butt by the therapist.
Yeah.
And so.
And he does. Not anymore. It's getting better. You did a good job. He's not lazy, but he's not lazy by any stretch of the imagination. Nobody in here is. Except that sloth over there.
But it's still hard for me to activate, like Jake says.
Yeah.
I mean, my glutes don't want to. You really have to think about it, actually squeeze them when you're in these. They're not going to do it on their own.
No, not at all. And it's one of those things too. Like even if you have strong hamstrings and glutes, if you're not careful and you're not focusing on that, it's one of those range of motions that you can eventually develop bad form with that if you're not acknowledging like where it should be. So I always want to focus on keeping that knee back.
You can always slow down the motion too to make sure you do good form. Don't rush it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so whatever I covered in these different moves, let me know if you have any additional questions. Line couple, tell me. Otherwise, we're going to talk about tomorrow, and then we're going to move on.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
Can you please show us the difference between a front and side kick? It's not related to today's workout, but it is relevant.
Okay, so we don't do side kicks. I do front kicks. I do kind of like snap kicks. I don't get ridiculous end kicks. A side kick is one of these motions. We're coming up here. I say I don't usually do them during workouts because I feel like there's other moves. There's a reason behind it. First of all, I'm not trying to make anybody who's following me MMA fighters, but at the same time, you're risking a lot of injury on the side kicks. But here, that's mainly a side kick. You're just coming up here, right here. But there's also a snap kick, which is what I always do. Think of it as a high knee, and it's just a high knee to a snap, like that. High knee to a snap. That's what I always do. I have a twist in mind. I kind of have a soccer-style kick. So when I'm coming in, I kind of round it and then kick. But I only do that because I want good range of motion. Understand this, every time I'm doing a kick, I'm thinking about fitness reasons as to why. I'm not saying that you should be kicking during a fight. I'm not saying you should get into fights, but that kick is designed for getting that range of motion. You want to try to kick over your head. That basically shows your flexibility in your hamstrings. The higher you can kick, the better you're doing. So think of it as a high knee first, high knee to a snap. High knee to a snap. Side kick is on the opposite, so you're coming up here, and then it's a side kick there. I see these on video. Sometimes they look really good. Other times I'm like, that person should not be doing side kicks. I'm one of those people that should not be doing side kicks.
Is it a hip risk?
What's that?
Hip risk?
Yeah. So when people have balance issues and hip problems and knee problems, if this one's not done correctly, this is where you twist a knee. This is where you're going to strain all that pressure. Like the difference is if you come here and lift your hip like that, that's the start of a side kick. Feel the difference on your hip. I'm glad you brought that up. As opposed to here where you're tight and you're coming up here.
Balanced.
It totally takes the pressure off. Totally takes the pressure off your hip. So if I'm kicking with, let's do the same leg. If I'm kicking with this leg, I'm coming up here, the balance here, the center point is much better. Even in a fight, I wouldn't do a side kick. I wouldn't kick. But that's the key here is here, snap, boom, as opposed to all that weight here, balancing and then kicking. You're really running a risk here. You're almost better off to just like if you want to balance to the side, balance. But again, slightly bend.
Slow, controlled motion though.
Yeah, slow and controlled. MMA and kicking and boxing and kickboxing, they're all good. But one of the problems that has happened is, everyone thinks that they're certified boxing trainers now.
It's a cardio sport. It's cardio.
Yeah. It's cardio-based. It's cardio-based. And so just be careful with it. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you're running a bigger risk on those side kicks, so just be careful.
I have another question.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of isometric exercises?
Yeah, very good question. What was the purpose of isometric exercises was the question. Isometrics are time under tension. They are engaging. It's muscular endurance. It's a lot different than doing quick reps. I need dumbbells for this because it hits a hot button of mine when people talk isometrics. Yeah, give me 2 on this one because the only way to do this, holding this down on curl and twist.
It's not isometric. This
is not isometric. Even if you're just holding this and doing one arm, you're not isolating. Like, what are you isolating here? Other than grip muscles, grip. This isn't really doing much. Isometric would be when you're doing something like this, you're isolating your bicep, if you're keeping your elbow out, which you should, and you should never be back on curls, it should always be here. Otherwise, with your back, you're starting to engage your shoulder, which causes a lot of shoulder injuries. This is the isometric right here, the bicep. So when you're holding this, the curl and twist is for that range of motion. So all I'm doing is I'm stretching. This is the flex. This is the stretch. So this develops the muscle. This is engaging the muscle and the muscular endurance. So I recently, I saw something like this was somehow an iso, and I saw a curl like this. Don't do that, please.
That's probably someone who doesn't know how to strength train.
Yeah, most likely. This is not a curl. Back in the early 2000s, there was a strength and conditioning coach that used to do really quick reps. It was for a specific sport, and those reps were modified, they were controlled, and they were done through a strength and conditioning team. I would never recommend doing quick reps like that when it comes to strength training moves. So just make sure you're doing, I'm not saying they don't have a purpose sometimes, but for the most part, I think people get a little too crazy with fast stuff. I know that wasn't all of your question. You were just talking about isometrics. I know
well, that's an important thing because there is a purpose to work quick twitch muscles.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if all you do is that, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get hurt quickly.
It basically goes back to what we believe in on balance and multifunctional fitness. And if you're doing everything fast, you're eventually going to imbalance your muscles, and that's where you're going to risk injury. And I never recommend taking weight doing some sort of fast curl. I'm not a fan of this.
Yeah, even when you had me do fast, it was controlled speed.
Now you can do fast burnouts like this. I've done these before.
Very controlled form right there.
But notice it's not this. I'm not doing a jump in that, and that's
dangerous.
It is dangerous. Now we do squat jacks right here. Squat jacks, again, still controlled. I'm not swinging it. I'm just dropping it, controlled, So squat jack curls are different, but just don't hurt yourself on these.
Can you talk about, I was at the gym the other day, and
yeah.
God bless the guy for trying to do an isometric. But this was his isometric.
Yeah.
So he basically took the iso out of the metric. Or
pretty much,
like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what is wrong with those two things?
So I see those a lot. A very common mistake, when you get tired, you bring the elbow back. It's a trick that trainers will develop because they know when you bring the elbow back, what happens is it takes, and you're going to have to try it so you could feel the difference. Hold the elbow in front of your waist like this and just hold it for about 15 seconds. From here, pull it back. Find the difference. It takes it off of your bicep. It starts to get right in the front of your delt. Now, when people have deltoid issues, it's often because moves like this that they're not focusing on, they're doing curls like this. You're actually not doing a curl.
On a small muscle group, too.
On a small muscle group. When this burns out, this shoulder is overworking, and you're starting to actually twist and torque the shoulder in ways it probably shouldn't be. So be very careful of that. The other one is this one. They raise it too high, what Rich was talking about. It should be at a 90. These are technically called tabletop curls. So it's like this is a table. If you ever have a table like this, I've never seen it, that would be more of like a slanted.
A folding table in the garage.
Or an architect desk.
In the attic.
Yeah.
Storage.
Yeah. Something like this, when you're coming up like that, you're not really isolating
You're not really
anything.
doing anything.
You want to make sure you're right there. Worst case, you can do an isometric lighter here and go heavier on the twist. Just make sure you alternate those weights.
Yeah, and I mean, the particular guy I was watching, I mean, he was really trying to do the right thing. He just didn't have the knowledge. And he would ISO for 2 reps and then switch. So you're not really getting a whole lot out of that ISO, even if you're doing it right. So and this was a case where he probably needed to lower the weight.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. I'm not trying to be mean to people who don't know better. I'm being a little bit more critical of people who are coming across as or leaving the impression of being personal trainers. And it's like they should know better. They should know better in that range of motion. If I'm making mistakes, I want to be called out on it.
Yeah, and I like to bring that stuff up because I need to check my ego occasionally.
Yeah, we all do.
The amount of weight I use. Because I can struggle with my form and get down on myself when really all I needed to do is drop 5 pounds.
Yeah. And it's at the same time, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those guys that, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're doing this wrong, because there's people out there like that as well, and all they're trying to do is push a program. And if you did it their way, you're never doing anything correctly. That's not what we're talking about. But
there's no excuses for that.
That was a good one because it was subtle. But at the same time, just make sure you understand why you're working muscle groups. Now, there's a purpose to going fast. There's a purpose to isolating. There's a purpose to isometrics and doing strength training and then switching to HIIT training. Just know why that purpose exists, because then you know what to focus on. And when you know what to focus on, you're less likely to get injured. So that question opened up a whole Pandora's box. I understand that, but I appreciate it. All right, Line Cub, what else we got?
Do you have any recommendations for stretching out tightness on the outside of a hip? So probably the IT.
Yeah, the IT band, that's been a question constantly that comes up. Foam rolling is the first one I would recommend. I know foam rolling is not a stretch, but you can warm the IT band up by foam rolling fast on the side. There are also things with the IT band. I have to get on the floor on this one. If you do have a bench, let me show you this one first. Let's just imagine this as a regular bench. This is one way you kind of open it up here. It's going to be hard on this. This is not the ideal situation, but let's just say this is like isolated, it's not moving around. This will open it up, because what I'm doing here, I'll just spin around. Look at that. You'll feel all that pressure right here. So it's a little bit different than doing it on the floor, because the floor takes you, yeah, it's like that. But when you go to a higher position, it gives a deeper stretch. This is a very good one. It's kind of a track one. You're coming down like that. And you could do it like Rich showed. You could also do it on the floor. Those are the two I always go to because those are the only two I really feel it from. But there are other ways. You could get down like this as well. So this one's a good one. Crossing your legs, dropping your knee down. These are a little more subtle. They're not as deep like the one I just showed you. But you can still feel it, and you can drop your hip down here, just like that. So that'll stretch it out. So let me show you on this angle. Same thing. We've done these, and you just drop that knee down. That opens it up. Now, it depends. Some people don't feel that stretch. Other people do. The one where you go higher, the first one I showed you, that one's you're probably going to feel the most with. So just find something.
It's not as awkward either.
It's not as awkward, no.
Yeah, don't avoid the foam roller, though, just because it hurts.
Yeah, foam roller is one of those things that's just like...
My physical therapist made me do that a lot.
Yeah. Foam rolling works. It works. All right, guys. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for the questions. And feel free, if you have any additional questions, leave that in the comments section. We will discuss those afterwards. If we don't take them on the comments, we'll probably take them in the next Q&A. That's legs and shoulders, buddy.
Yeah, well, we got tomorrow, buddy.
Yay! Tomorrow's chest and tries, since we're on the subject. Expect this all week. We are basically hitting strength training hard this week under reps and sets, under my count, 6 straight days. And it's going to be superset style, basically doing multiple exercises one after another. Traditionally, it's usually 2 exercises. We were doing 2 in a couple of these, but I personally like to add 3 and sometimes 4 exercises within that superset. So
He does.
it's fun. There it is, guys.
It's not.
All right, there it is. Thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow where we're hitting some chest and tries, and I have nothing else.
No, I'm good, too. Enjoy the holiday.
Yeah, and it is a holiday today, so enjoy it if you have the day off. That's fun. And I do have one maintenance thing to talk about on the website eventually. If you haven't been watching The Poet on Facebook Live, that's every Sunday, I'm going to be taking those videos afterwards and putting them on the public website for access for everybody, because they do have access to them anyway. And that's going to be on so you just go to relentlessfit365.com and
Relentless U tab?
it'll be Relentless U tab. I will also do one for Paprika once she starts, and those will be all on the website, so you guys can watch those and join in on that way it'll be easier to find, because I know how Facebook gets. The moment one's done, they get buried, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there's a way to create a playlist on Facebook, but Facebook video stuff is kind of clumsy.
There is a way, and Facebook video is clumsy, and I think people have a hard time finding it. we'll just keep posting it on the website. I'll update it. Once I get this started, I'll update it every week. And so you'll be able to follow right through what the poet does every week and when Paprika gets into it as well.
Sounds like a plan, Sam.
That's all I got. Rich, you have anything you want to add?
I do not at this time. Thank you very much.
It's cooler in here, right?
I have no comment.
No comment on that.
I feel like I'm at, these microphones make me feel like I'm in a Senate hearing.
It did, yeah.
A Senate hearing, you know.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
He doesn't recall. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Always remember, eat healthy, train hard, most especially have fun. I'm Relentless Jake.
Good. I'm the wizard.
You remember to stay focused, stay dedicated, and we'll see your beautiful faces tomorrow. And we're out. Bam! Pew, 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 pew.